Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special bulletin. Sweet baby stench employees just seem to rear their ugly heads. I'm gonna say it how it is. Sweet Baby Inc. employees rear their ugly heads yet again and again and again with oh so wonderful speeches and statements, and well, we're going to take another moment to bring it out into the light, bring it into the disinfecting qualities of the sun, because it is the greatest disinfectant. Now, all we're going to do is use a person's words. Try not to take them out of context. We don't want to do that because, don't want to be disingenuous at all. Let's go take a look over here on that Park Place. Sweet Baby Inc. employee admits goal is burning the games industry to the ground. And that is an interesting statement in and of itself. So we're going to talk about it, dissect it, and, well, let's see what their little speech discussion has to say. John F. Trent doing the heavy lifting for us. Cameron Wild. Goal is burning the game industry to the ground. I wonder if they mean literally or how figuratively. What part of the game industry could they be talking about? You will not be surprised. Okay? You will not be surprised at what Cameron Wild's goal is, especially considering, well, they work for Sweet Baby Inc. Yay. Buckle in, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go on a ride. In a presentation, it even starts with the title of the presentation. Presentation titled, How to Get Away with Murder. Subverting Genre Expectations. Genre expectations. That's an interesting choice of words right out the gate. Genre, and we're not even going to talk about murder subverting. Getting away with murder. Getting away with murder. Getting away with something that shouldn't be there. You shouldn't do, essentially. But subverting genre expectations. My expectation for a genre is that it follows the genre. It plays towards the genre. Why would you want to subvert those expectations? Y'all help me out in the comment section down below. At Game Developers of Color Expo. So we're going to keep on segregating ourselves, right? Long time ago, a whole bunch of wonderful people, well-meaning people, champions, heroes of our society, fought, and some died, to desegregate our country. And now, it seems we've come full circle. We're going backwards as a society, but that's a whole nother discussion, not really some things I talk about. But you know what? Okay, call it for what it is. Wild introduces himself, saying that he is a narrative designer and sensitivity reader. Made up position at a job to justify your paycheck. With a company called Sweet Baby Stench. That's all they are. They're stench, they're a blight, they're a plague on the gaming industry. Wild, who according to Moby Games worked on Tales of Kenzara Zhao. I think that failed. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Another failure. Alan Wake 2. Maybe not a failure, but still hasn't made its money back. The Crew Motorfest. Many people have said it. I'm going to say it too. You need a sensitivity reader on a racing game? Okay. Kingdom 80s. No idea what that is. God of War Ragnarok. People have differing opinions on that. You decide for yourself. Then declared, this is a fun one, the stories we tell each other are way more than entertainment. Maybe. They are how we create, debate, and preserve our collective values and beliefs. Can't disagree with that. And we can and should make better, more expansive, more representational content. Now, I'm not going to disagree with that either, as long as you make it fun first. Fucker. Make it fun. Make your story entertaining. Make the discussion. Make whatever message you're trying to push, because we all know these people are trying to push an ideological message. Make it fun, make it interesting, make it entertaining, and make it make sense in the world you are building, the world you are presenting with the characters you are putting into this game. If you make it fun and you make it make sense, you will be surprised at how much backlash you don't get. So, nothing wrong with representational content, expansive content, but you're focusing on that, and again, going to beat that broken record. beat the dead horse, broken record, whatever. Mixing up two sayings all at once. It's early. You make it fun first. Work on everything else afterwards. You're putting your message, your representation ahead of everything else, in which case, 9 times out of 10, your product is a failure. Then, in the slide titled, Cool, So Why Am I Here? To push your ideological message onto everybody without even caring about the story or the part piece of the entertainment that is entertaining. One of the bullet points states, burning the games industry to the ground. Oh. So, let's look at the slide. We want cooler stories. Yes, we do. Guaranteed, I 100% agree with you. We want cooler stories. We want a safer world. But, I mean, yeah, but I don't think we agree on what we consider a safer world. I think, whatever. Moving on. Back to the most important part. Burning the games industry to the ground. Now, what could they mean by that? What could Cameron mean by that? Maybe deconstructing the structure. Oh, good Lord. Maybe figuratively. How figuratively? What parts of the game industry do they want to burn to the ground? Well, we got some lovely buzzwords coming. In the next slide, so why am I here? One of the bullet points, to prove that space where whiteness doesn't have to live is where some of the best stories are told. According to who? And why is it always brought up in discussions that particular individuals like this, Sweet Baby Stench, ideologically driven mindsets, why is it always whiteness that's brought up? Why is it always about race? Why is it always about gender? Why can't we just tell a good story without concerning ourselves with race, religion, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, who you want to sleep with, where you want to put your private parts? Why is that always the most important thing when it comes to marketing, when it comes to these speeches, these little discussions they have? Why are those things always the most important? They never want to talk about the actual story, the world, and the characters. Makes you think they have a one-track mind. Wild explained, quote, a lot of us are really fighting for more inclusive games. Games are always inclusive. They've been inclusive since the dawn of time. One of the most popular franchises in history is Metroid. Main character was a woman. They've always been inclusive. It's just now you need to justify your job, your existence, by finding the problems. Because if there's no problems, you don't have a job. You don't have a purpose. You have decided to implant yourself in an area much like Anita Sarkeesian, who's reared her wonderful little head as of late. You have to find a problem. As she says, everything is racist, everything is sexist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it out. Well, if it doesn't exist, what do? Well, you reach across the Grand Canyon to make people see what isn't actually there. A lot of us who are just existing don't have a choice. You always have a choice. Which makes this really hard often. No, it doesn't. Make what you want to make. Put it out there, and if people like it, they will buy it. If it's full of ideological drivel to the detriment of the story, people will not buy it and move on. And maybe instead of denigrating the critics and insulting them and calling them all kinds of nasty little names that have no meaning anymore, maybe you learn from what you did and work on the story first. Remember? Make it fun first. Learn to improve instead of putting the blame on everyone else around you. Go look in the mirror. But recently I started realizing that discomfort, or the place where whiteness doesn't have to live, is where some of the best stories are told. Okay. Discomfort. Raise your hand. Y'all let me know. When you sit down with your escapism, with your video game, TV, show, or movies, are you looking to be uncomfortable in your entertainment, in your escapism? Do you want to suffer through some sort of whatever uncomfortable story that's out there with no shot of being the hero in the end? Discomfort, the place where whiteness doesn't have to live. My goodness. Everything is about race with people like this. Doesn't have to live is where some of the best stories are told, and it's where genre storytelling lives. I don't think you know what genre storytelling is. I don't even know what that even means. Later in the presentation, Wild explains why Blazing Saddles is his favorite film. Now, that's a bit of a shocker because Blazing Saddles is a massively racist parody comedy on, yeah, and it was just fun. It was good. It was great. It had jokes. And I don't think what this individual, they think that Mel Brooks is 100% responsible for Blazing Saddles. Found out much later in my life that Richard Pryor had a major role in writing that movie. Mel Brooks teamed up with Richard Pryor, black comedian, if you didn't know that, to get the jokes right, to make sure they landed right. So they were the, I guess, the correct kind of comedically offensive. So, interesting. The reason why I love it, beyond some truly Mel Brooksian slapstick humor and fart jokes, funny scene, Blazing Saddles is extremely aware of social inequality. They made the sheriff of... Anyway. The movie, I don't see it having anything to do with social inequality outside of, Old West, racial jokes. Okay. And find its humor in that darkness, which means I can laugh in a way that is cathartic. It's a movie that isn't making jokes about me. It's making jokes about everyone, actually, but for me. No, wrong again. The jokes in Blazing Saddles are at everyone's expense. White people, black people, Asians, all of the above. All of them, men, women. It makes fun of everyone. I don't think you watched the same movie that I did. And I think that's really awesome because you can tell in the text. It's also a fact that Brooks worked with black writers. You don't even want to name Richard Pryor. Just black writers. At least you were almost there. You were almost there, Cameron. You couldn't even say the man's name. To make sure the jokes came at the expense of whiteness, and chipped away at an absurd social hierarchy. It's deliberately and unexpectedly a narrative that contributes to the liberation of people like me. Blazing Saddles made jokes at everyone's expense. If you didn't get it, you weren't paying attention. It isn't respectful, correct. It's offensive, correct. And it's funny. Oh, it offends the right people. What is this mindset? Can we get back to video games? In one ironic moment during the presentation, Wilde did share a nugget of truth. Quote, ultimately, if you're telling a story that misses its audience, that doesn't ring true and fails to cut in the right direction, the problem isn't that it's just insensitive. The problem is it's bad. Wow. What a profound statement that I don't even think they realize is directed at them. If it doesn't ring true, if it misses its audience, there seems to be a lot of games out there that are completely and totally missing their audience. No matter how hard they try, no matter how much they try to push these agenda-driven, these ideological checkbox-driven video games out there. Looking at you, Dustborn, that was garbage. You miss the audience. You fail at the most basic sense of being entertaining. You can't even be entertaining. Unless, of course, you're watching someone suffer through it. Thank you very much for joining me on that wonderful little ride. However, he then points to Django Unchained, fantastic movie, being an example of this while explaining his point of view. Wilde stated, so a context-free version of art is supposed to make people uncomfortable. Okay. As an auteur, we're using big, okay. Quentin Tarantino feels like someone who grasps after edginess when they don't really have any human tragedy to explore the depths of. Okay. They don't understand that growth comes from trauma. Not necessarily. Growth comes from experience. Growth comes from mistakes. Growth doesn't just come from trauma. Sure, but it also comes from joy. Oh, well, at least you got something. He holds a no pain, no gain mentality that I think is unshakably rooted in... Oh, what did I say earlier? It's always about divideness. It's always about skin color. It's always about gender. It's always about sexuality. Why can't you have an original thought? You're regurgitating the same nonsense over and over again. So let's go ahead and read that sentence completely. Speaking of Quentin Tarantino, he holds no pain, no gain mentality that I think is unshakably rooted in white supremacist patriarchal values. My God, you pretentious twat. The presentation then turns to a takedown of Tarantino with Wilde. Are we talking about video games or movies? When do we talk about video games? Cameron, when are you going to talk about video games? I do think Tarantino's works needs to be critiqued out of existence. Oh, so you don't think, oh, someone you disagree with that you don't find entertaining, you think they should no longer be allowed to make their movies. Okay. And that he specifically has to be addressed in any discussion of that work, because Tarantino is capable of genre filmmaking. What genre? He's made multiple different, he's made action, he's made westerns, he's just, what? Okay. Again, I don't think Cameron knows what or either that or I don't know what it means. I definitely don't know what it means in the basis of what Cameron's talking about. The genre he's chosen with Django is blaxploitation. Yes, you are correct. Okay. I mean, did we not know this? Okay. And why? I have my own pet theories. Oh, it's because Quentin Tarantino's a white supremacist. He hates black people. He's a bigot. Oh, God. Anyway, personally, I think it's the same thing we see that with any non-black creator who thinks that black people are cool but can't really examine the covetous nature of their feelings or their own role in black stories. What? People who, in life, met a black person that they wanted to follow, fuck, or befriend, and never resolved it. Anybody else confused with this speech and where it's going and why he's talking about movies instead of, video games at a video game conference? Or just like trying to give examples of genre storytelling in video games by bringing up movies? I'm confused. The equivalent of a little boy pulling a little girl's pigtail, but it's a white filmmaker in black paint. Oh, boy. So I think what he's trying to say is Quentin Tarantino has this fetish of making a movie centering on a black actor or a black story and everything because, at one point in time, he had the hots for a black woman or wanted to be friends with a black person, never could and couldn't resolve it. So now he's got to make the blaxploitation movie. He's made one. It's one. It's just what? I'm trying to get to the important parts. After about 10 minutes reviewing Django Unchained, don't care. He then wrapped up the entire presentation by sharing that good genre starts with representation on the creative team. No. You are 100% wrong, you moron. Good genre starts with representation. Can we get back to merit? How about that? The foundations of the project must be solid. Yeah, you need talented people. Start with talent and follow that up with representation. If you want representation, get the most qualified people first. My goodness. Wilde also claims that identity of your characters, specifically our heroes, must define their challenges in the narrative, but it must also define their triumphs. Or you could just write a story, put whatever character you want in there that you think is appropriate, and just go from there. Stories, like in a fantasy world, which is essentially what our entertainment is, video games, TVs, and movies, it's all fiction, it's all fantasy, it's all made up in our heads. And if you are able to establish the story, the background, the rules, the world building ahead of time, then the skin tone, the superficial aspects of your hero will not matter. Because then people of all demographics will find something to be able to relate to those characters outside of the superficial aspects of the character. The number one problem with people like this is there is the superficiality of what they're trying to say. And I'll never, we used to have stories. We used to have games and stories. Like, I have always been a fan of Metroid. Metroid's a woman. Samus is a woman. But according to people like Cameron, I cannot in any way, shape, or form relate to Samus because, well, I have a pecker. So none of that makes sense. I can't relate to someone like Falcon because he's a black man and I'm white. None of that makes sense. Black people can't relate to Batman or Spider-Man because superficiality. Get back to storytelling, focus on storytelling, and then we won't have superficial nonsense. Okay, let's keep going. Finally, Wilde claims that good genre must consider its relationships to fucking hell. Burning the game industry to the ground. To give the benefit of the doubt on this one, maybe trying to change the norms in such a drastic way that we can get better storytelling, or what Cameron considers better storytelling. Well, I have news for you, Cameron. People are not going to agree with your idea of storytelling, especially since you bring up white supremacy, blaxploitation. You're talking about race, gender, sexuality in half of your discussion, using it as a critical talking point, and none of it makes sense. I don't know who this speech is supposed to win over, but, well, considering you work for Sweet Baby Inc., I don't think you're trying to do that. You're trying to push a narrative. My goodness. Burning the games industry to the ground. Anyway, thank you, Sweet Baby Inc., for giving us content. Thank you for ruining, not ruining, maybe not directly, but being privy to, being in the development process in one way, shape, or form, in what seems to be a history, a pattern of bad games, bad pieces of entertainment, escapism that we would really like to throw our money at, but y'all are involved, so we're going to keep our wallets nice and shut and closed. This is yet one more reason why companies like Sweet Baby Inc. should be avoided like the plague. Don't go anywhere near them. If there's a video game or a company that's involved with them or that has them involved with their project, shut your wallets tight. Don't even bother. Wait for someone else to talk about it. Wait for someone else to review it. Wait for that trusted YouTuber, or YouTubers plural, to check out the game before you open your wallet and give any of these companies money, because we're tired of it. We're sick and tired of it. It's a pattern. It is a pattern that is rearing its ugly head over and over and over again. Hence, that's why it's called a pattern. I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Leave a like, leave a dislike, do all those nifty little things that YouTubers beg you to do, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.